Pat, you're a naturopath, a homeopath, and a scientific anti-vivisectionist. Can you tell us how you became involved in this whole movement?
I came from a different direction than the normal animal rights worker. I started off in life as an engineer. In my late 20s I lost my father to cancer. His parents had both already gone with the same disease or the treatment, and I found that I had to change direction for my own survival really. I needed to know about the alternatives, and by chance I picked up a book on alternative medicine, and I found that this wasn't really what I'd been fed from orthodox sources. One thing led to another. I began to eat books on the subject. Eventually I took a qualification as a naturopath and qualified in 1974. After that I discovered vivisection, which is unusual. I then realised that this huge hoax, which was allopathic medicine, was being underpinned by the obscene cruelty of vivisection. So I became quite annoyed, to put it mildly.
What in fact is vivisection? What does it involve?
It involves painful experiments on animals. Physical, mental, emotional, psychological, taking a blowtorch to a pig or a dog, removing kittens' eyes, freezing, drowning, disemboweling, raping, irradiating, driving mad. Billions of animals of innumerable species, anything they can get their hands on, in short.
The pro-vivisectionists claim that experimenting upon animals can teach us about human health and human disease. Is there any truth in this claim?
Not an atom. You cannot extrapolate across the species barrier. There are books full of examples to back up that, but you only need to remember one scenario, and that is the LD50, in which a batch of animals are force-fed a substance, usually a petrochemical, to see how much constitutes a lethal dose for 50% of the batch. Now in this test, the animals are the same species, the same size, the same age, the same weight, the same appearance. They are force-fed the same dose of the same substance at the same time within laboratory control conditions. Some animals die, some animals do not die. Some die one way, some die another. Some are maimed one way, some are maimed another. So we cannot extrapolate from one animal to its virtual clone when we do exactly the same thing to it at the same time in the same place. Therefore, extrapolation cannot be achieved under any circumstances, and that fact alone is enough to scupper vivisection entirely.
But surely animal experimentation must have taught us something useful. There must have been something of value to come from it all.
No, certainly not. You cannot extrapolate at all. What it has told us is that there is no more bogus way of trying to prove the safety and efficiency of a substance than through an animal test. We see this all around us, the comeuppance of animal experimentation, the huge human damage, the animal damage, the environmental damage, the economic damage. That's what it's told us. It has told us nothing of benefit for human health and medicine.
But if vivisection is useless and in fact dangerous, why on earth are serious scientists and pharmaceutical companies all over the world still using this method?
Well, all medical fraud has several clearly defined facets. The driving force behind vivisection is pure dollar lust. It is very, very big business. If you have a petrochemical, pesticide, herbicide, solvent, prescription drug, over-the-counter drug, whatever, which would not pass genuine tests of safety and efficiency, and none of them will, you have to have a fraudulent test to get your product onto the market. If you didn't, not only would you not be the world's #1 money spinner, you wouldn't be in business at all. That's the driving force. But there is another factor called what I call the great god of consensus medicine, in which the orthodox academics fall into line. Now, the vivisection industry make great play on this. They say we have 1,000 members of the British Association who say that vivisection is good for us. Now, I have O-level maths, and I'm here to tell you that 1,000 times nothing equals nothing. If 1,000 academics choose to toe the consensus line, to fall in line with the orthodox view without offering an atom of evidence to support their views are worthless. What is important is this: 1,000 doctors against vivisection. Why did these conservative people choose to swim against the tide? Do they like peer ridicule? Do they like losing positions of power and influence and money? No, these people are independent thinkers and they back up their views with tons of evidence. That's important, 1,000 doctors against vivisection. Academics towing the line means nothing to an intelligent person.
What about animals themselves? Can we not learn to cure animal diseases through vivisecting them?
Certainly not. If you take, for instance, the domestic dog, whose health is about comparable now with human beings. The cancer rate is around 23% in all dogs, 45% in dogs over the age of 10, heart disease, diabetes, immune system problems. This has been caused by cumulative effects of tinned cooked meat laced with nitrates and pesticides and salt, vaccines, antibiotics. This bears no relationship whatsoever to the animal who's been taken off the streets or from a breeder and is put in a laboratory cage. This animal was healthy when it arrived at the laboratory. It is then subjected to physical, mental, emotional brutality, torture, until it develops a certain syndrome, which varies from animal to animal, no two are alike. The vivisector is then telling us that this artificially induced malady compares with a spontaneously occurring disease in another animal or man. This is self-evident absurdity. No, absolutely not.
Wasn't insulin discovered as a result of experimentation upon animals?
No, that delayed progress in treating diabetes considerably. When Banting and Best took the dogs off the street, cut them open and poured boiling water into their pancreases, causing them to faint in agony, it told them about that dog only. The work that was done on insulin was done primarily by a man called Corley and other people working in the field of human medicine. Insulin therapy is fraught with danger. I know this from personal experience. My own mother went down that path. Thankfully, she died before they could cut the second leg off. But while she was in hospital, I saw the products of orthodox insulin therapy and orthodox diabetes diet. Insulin should be managed by diet alone, particularly in maturity onset cases. As one American diabetic said, the diabetics do not owe their lives to insulin, they owe their deaths to insulin. And this is too often the case, I'm afraid.
Well, what about the whole subject of cancer? Isn't it true that animal experimentation is helping to cure cancers such as leukemia?
Most certainly not. The definition of cure in cancer is the restoration of the cancer defense mechanism and the elimination of cancer through that mechanism. In other words, the restoration of health of the patient. That is the only definition of cure in cancer. All the information has been in for decades to successfully prevent and treat cancer through natural, holistic, metabolic means. Zapping the tumour, the cell with high-dose radiation, with petrochemical drugs or with the scalpel, and then announcing cured after the patient has lasted 5 years is not successful treatment of cancer. It's a hoax.